they've come out and said the draft will take place as originally scheduled, and it will be a virtual draft. What have you heard about that? What challenges does that present? And I guess it's kind of nice that you have a young head coach and a young GM that are Ivy League educated, because they should be able to figure this stuff out pretty easily.
Right. If any front office can do this, it's going to be the Browns front office with Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Barry, Paul DePodesta, who was working on the West Coast for a while and does a lot of working from home. So he's probably set up for this. I think the biggest challenge is pre-draft. If we're being honest, how are they going to adjust to some of the pre-draft stuff and how they have to do virtual interviews and things like that? I think that's the biggest challenge to all of this, because really on draft night, obviously you love to be in the same room together. You love to have those arguments and discussions. But, in a lot of ways, this kind of gives you an out for a lot of NFL GMs. Hey, if you screw up this draft, you can go back and say, this was a weird draft and it was set up weird. We just didn't have the best resources to do this. So I don't know, maybe it ends up being a good thing for some of these teams and GMs.
Um, a lot is made that you didn't have the pro days and you didn't have some of the things that you normally would have, where you get that extra information about the potential guys you're going to draft. Everybody's on the equal playing field, though. But is that a real thing as you get deeper into the draft, do you think?
I, I think it could be. I think with being able to go and see guys and stand next to them and interview guys, you do gain something from that. I think so. Losing that aspect of it really hurts. And I remember hearing stories about Justin Gilbert, how some teams, obviously not the Browns, but some teams maybe took him off their board after they talked to him on a pro day, right? So maybe this guy's tape was good, but then you talked to him and figured some things out about him. And you ended up not really wanting to draft him again, unless you were Ray Farmer in the Browns. So I think having everybody on a level playing field is going to be a good thing, but you do lose something by not having the contact with these prospects.
The other thing that we have to take into account, how big of a challenge is it, given that this is the first draft for Andrew Barry as a GM and the first draft for Kevin Stefanski as a head coach, and you can't do the things that you normally do. That's got to be a bit of a challenge for them.
Yeah, it just adds another wrinkle to two guys who obviously who know each other, and they met each other in the interview process last year and kind of had met each other before that as well, but they've never worked together in a draft room. And so now when you add in this wrinkle of you're going to be in a bunch of different locations, you're going to have scouts in a bunch of different locations, it just makes it more difficult. The communication with Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota and Andrew Barry. We actually don't know where Andrew Barry is right now. We're going to get a chance to talk to him in the next day or two. We don't know if he's in Cleveland or where he is exactly. So, Paul DePodesta probably out on the West Coast. It just adds more wrinkles to having to communicate at a time when you really do have to be able to communicate well, and they just don't have that vibe for each other on a draft night yet.